Hey there, my name's Ed Marzuski. I'm the director of Public Media Institute, and I'm also one of the co-founders of Mars Community Brewing, Maria's, and Kimski. And I'm really delighted here today to be able to hang out with the two chefs who are instrumental in helping us start and sustain and manage the Community Kitchen program. The Community Kitchen program is an initiative that we started last spring to help feed community members that were in need, whether they were at senior citizen homes, food pantries, community organizations who had an emergency need for prepared meals during the pandemic. We're still in the pandemic, and we're still operating this program, and we're here to talk about how the program started. And I'd like to introduce my colleagues here and have them tell a little bit about themselves, and then we could talk about how we started the program. So to my right is Chef Juan Kim. Juan, give us a little breakdown of what your history is and what you do for Kimski and the Community Kitchen.
Sure. So I'm Juan. I chef partner of Kimski and Pizza Fried Chicken Ice Cream here in Bridgeport. Met Ed and the family doing beer events here at Co-Prosperity Sphere a while back. From there, a partnership grew because I think we both always thought outside the box and kind of had crazy ideas that we'd like to experiment with, and that grew into a pretty long partnership, and now into I don't know, countless amount of projects and experiments and successes and failures. And currently, we're still all open, which is great, and we're able to launched this Community Kitchen, Community Canteen initiative during the pandemic, and it's still going on now, as well as the pandemic, unfortunately, but we're all still here. We're all still keeping our heads above water and doing what we can to help those in need.
Thanks, Juan. It would be great to also introduce my colleague, Kelly Ajici, who's from Mom's, Chicago, and also is the head chef over at Mars. So, Kelly, could you tell us a little bit about your history and about what you're up to?
Sure. So, my name is Kelly. I'm the chef and owner of Mom's. We started at Politan Row, which is a food hall in the West Loop neighborhood of the city. The food hall closed at the beginning of the pandemic, which was timing with the end of our lease there, and we decided to not renew. We're a Japanese food concept that got our start doing pop-ups in the city, and that's when I was introduced to Juan and Ed, I would say about 2-3 years ago. When Mom's closed at our Politan Row location, we were looking for something to do, not sure what the future was going to hold for us, and we started doing pop-ups for pickup and delivery at Mars and at Kimski to get through the beginning months of the pandemic. Then spring, summer rolled around, and we started talking about kind of building this community food program and how we as a team could make this happen. We started last June, and from Mars, from the Mars location, we began doing meals once a week and expanded to 3 times a week, and at the most, we were doing almost 800 meals a week out of that location.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. I remember that we also started the Community of the Future market. I mean, at that time, we were all freaking out. If I recall correctly, Juan, when the pandemic was officially here and we started shutting down our physical locations and restaurants, we closed Maria's to the public and closed Kimski. We pivoted to a to-go model and a pickup model, and it was just so stressful and insane. It was really brutal. In fact, I mean, you actually were one of the first persons I knew that contracted COVID. Remember that?
Do I ever?
Yeah.
What a great time of my life. Yes, I did contract COVID. Last year, I was out of work for 2 months almost. I got pneumonia, went to the ER like 2 or 3 times. I really wasn't sure what was going to happen to me. But even during that time, we did what we could for the business to make sure our employees were taken care of and still employed. We did what we can, even though we knew we were hemorrhaging money on the business side of it. But, I think, again, this is stemming from always trying to stay ahead of the curve and look at options from an outsider's point of view rather than a business owner's point of view. We kind of established that there was a need for a community, a sense of community, a sense of normalcy, and being able to help others in need at the same time.
We started the Community Future Market where we had different vendors, and that's where Moms was actually one of the featured vendors of the market. And there were other farmers, there were other producers, suppliers. Like everyone stopped doing business, from the distributor like Forage and Foster to these some of the manufacturers of the plant who are making greens, et cetera. And it was like a strange confluence. Like the market came, and then we started the prototype of the community kitchen where we would make meals and give them out to senior citizen homes. We piloted the first kitchen. And that first kitchen allowed us to use some of the produce from the market in some of the meals. And that's where it was like, you know what, there's an entire loop here. We all know what struggles all these organizations are going through, all these chefs, all these different groups, whether it was Co-op Hot Sauce. So we just tried to find ways of like making it easier, very safe for people to purchase those products.
Truth be told, we kind of let it, we borrowed that idea from our friend John, who initially started this free market up in Lincoln Park. And we thought, well, every neighborhood should be doing this for their vendors and for their residents, outdoor markets where it's free for people to help each other and to get really good produce that restaurants only had access to back then. Mm-hmm. But now it's open to the public. So that's when I asked Kelly, this kind of stemmed off from like, hey, there's a crazy free market. You guys should come down and do your donuts. You guys will crush it. And they did.
We sold out of donuts the first 2 weeks in like an hour. It was
and then I called Ed. I was like, hey, there's a crazy free market. They're selling beer here. Bring your beer. And then, it's all about, it's this weird cyclical thing that we do where we just help each other out. And then it's not really like stealing ideas per se. It's just like, again, we saw a need for that to happen in Bridgeport here because Lincoln Park's a very, there's so many communities, so many neighborhoods in this city. So it's like, well, if we could have some kind of system like that in Bridgeport, why wouldn't we do it? Why wouldn't we even try to do it? We all had extra time on our hands, when I wasn't dying. So it was nice to be able to implement that. And I think Ed and I we have this motto where it's just like if it sucks, we won't do it again. But if it's great, let's just keep doing it until it sucks, and it didn't suck. So, we kept with it, and then, we get new ideas from that kind of stuff, and, and to have, moms on board after that and run the kitchen even, I would say that that's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about this program, too, as it was implemented, is that we decided that it was really important for us to make sure that because the kitchens were closed, because no one was working full-time, because it was just insane at that time, we wanted to make sure that we paid people pretty good wages, right? Like, it was really unique. It's like, oh my gosh, we're frontline workers. We're at the most at risk. We're the people making food for organizations or groups or the public. So it was important for us to pay a really good wage, which was like $20 or $25 an hour for people to work, part-time. I'm wondering, like, A, is that a good thing to do? B, could we have done it for cheaper? Or what do you think would have been the best way of doing something like this? Was that important for the program?
I mean, I think it's an integral part of the start of all of this. It's not just paying the chefs that are out of work right now. It's paying for us to be able to use local ingredients from local farms, local ranchers, ingredients that wouldn't necessarily be available to these communities that we're feeding otherwise. I feel like that increased wage is absolutely a big part of this that was necessary and warranted.
I also see it as extra incentive for people that maybe were kind of on the line about still leaving their apartment and going out to the public to even in an enclosed space that was safe and following all the COVID protocols, it made them want to be part of something. And you know what? If they came out just because of extra money, then that's great. That means we got them out of the house, we got them comfortable enough to want to help the community. And I think the $25 an hour thing is like, that's almost like what like white collar jobs make, you know what I mean, sometimes. So it's like paying them, and because it was part-time, we're able to pay those kind of wages because it was part-time. It was never meant to be a full-time program, because I mean, that's really not our jobs to begin with, to be able to feed, those in need full-time. So we did our part best we could for the whole cycle of food, paying, this way we're able to pay vendors, we're able to pay farmers, we're able to bring in new vendors, we're able to pay restaurants, guest chefs.
Delivery drivers.
Everything.
Yeah.
I mean, every part of it was paid.
Yeah, because we also decided that we didn't want volunteers involved, because at that time we were afraid of breaking our own bubbles, right? So a lot of people wanted to donate or wanted to volunteer to do something there. And we really didn't want that, because we didn't want to have people here who were just there for maybe 1 week or next week, and we didn't know what their reliability was. We didn't want to manage them. We wanted to make sure that if people were working this, they were paid to make these delicious meals. And the other facet, too, that I think was important for this was that we also paid for suppliers' goods, like basically produce made in urban farms, produce made locally, Schlegel Farms meat, etc. And I think it was important for us to use the ingredients that we would use to the food that we're making at our restaurants prior to that, as a way of saying, like, we're not looking for the cheapest, lowest common denominator meal to stretch it out, right? Do you guys want to talk about that? Is that important at all for a program like this?
Well, absolutely. I think keeping the food cycle alive was a priority for us during this pandemic, whether it was Community Kitchen, whether it's, our own menu. That's at the root of everything food related. It's about the produce and the farmers and where the food comes from. If it doesn't come from a good source, like, why would we, if we're not going to eat it ourselves, why would we want to feed it to other people? So we kept the quality high for a purpose, so that we made everyone feel like human beings. I think that's really important during a pandemic to this scale, is to make people feel normal and welcome, and present a meal that was really well thought of, that wasn't just slapped together, or wasn't all put in one pot and blasted to boil and served, it wasn't sludge, just because it was free. It was thoughtful, well-crafted meals. I mean,
Kelly, you guys were making all kinds of meals very frequently. What was the philosophy of how you would make about almost 800 meals a week?
So we were definitely kind of, to what Juan was saying, focusing on supporting local vendors while also providing like a nutritious meal that wasn't just like something thrown together with items that may be low quality or even expired, because that happens a lot with food donations, unfortunately. And it was really important that we made, which was easy for us because we had, our volunteers are a lot of chefs and chefs out of work with great experience that are, industry veterans at this point. So meals that were nutritious, creative, and supported these local vendors, which I think another important part to say is these vendors lost a lot of business through the pandemic, where they were getting orders from restaurants all over the city consistently. A lot of that completely stopped.
Yeah, you were using local bakers to make, and pastry chefs to make the desserts or the bread. Yeah, I think that's one of the other thing about the program, is that it was connecting to those vendors who had clients and didn't have them, and was able to provide some minimal support just to keep it going in a way. So yeah, that's the other part of the program that I really thought was super important, is the quality of the food, the fact that the chefs are well paid, and that the fact that these uplifting meals could be sent to people who normally wouldn't afford them or ever receive them.
I think to add to that too, we quickly realized, kind of what Kelly said too, is it's great to see, once this program started kind of taking off and getting a life of its own, you started to see a lot of other chefs from other well-known restaurants, well-respected restaurants, wanting to be a part of it all. And once we offered even a stipend or like told them that we could pay for the food, they were actually surprised, and they were like, whoa, like, you could actually pay us to do this too? We're ready to donate our time.
Yeah.
Where we would come in and say, don't donate your time. The purpose of this is to make sure you can pay for the food you're going to make for us
Yeah.
and the people.
And that's really interesting you bring that up because a lot of, in some quarters of the food world or food aids world, it seems like they ask a lot of chefs and restaurants to make these donations without compensation all the time. And it's like, that's great. Some people could do that. But if you want a sustained program, if you want to do something that's continually available to people, you kind of have to make that effort to pay for it. And we're very lucky that we got some strong foundation support and grants, and then lots of people actually made individual contributions, and corporations made contributions. Without that, we would not be able to provide that quality of food, quality of service, and take care of the workers in general. And then I think in the fall, we decided to create a new thing called the canteen. And the idea of the canteen was that we were worried about people waiting outside because part of the program at Kimsky, for example, was that people had to wait outside at a specific time to pick up their meals. And as the weather got colder, we thought we need to do something that makes it a little bit more accessible and easier for people to come whenever they want, as opposed to at noon each day to get a meal. So we kind of created a hybrid form of the kitchen and called it the Community Canteen. And people were allowed to come into Kimsky and then Wherewithal, look at the menu, order some items off the menu, and then leave with that food. Like it was like a takeout stand. One of the facets of it is that we were asking people to pay as they could, and it was somewhat successful, but not as successful as we'd hoped. It was really more important just to give the food away to people in need as opposed to asking everyone for a donation. And I look at that model, I'm like, that was great, because every week, at least at the canteen that you were doing, you would do a meal, then the next week a different chef would do a meal, and there'd be different people making different entrees.
The best part was seeing families come back with their children and getting food and, knowing that it went to a specific clientele. And, some of it, some people just came in because they knew some of the chefs, and that's fine too. There was no judgment involved. We really just, we treated everyone like customers, like we would. We were polite. If you wanted a few extra meals, that was no problem with us. And, we didn't want to question anyone. We don't want to make anyone feel weird or bad about coming in and getting free food, or if they came in multiple times. And that's really what community is for us, I feel like, is to make everyone feel comfortable and welcome, especially when everything's so effed up, Not to harp on this, but I think Bridgeport being the community of the future from like years past, whether it was said as a joke or not back then, I think we set the model during this pandemic, we really set the model of like partnership and community and just like setting the egos aside. We could have easily made all the meals ourselves and given ourselves all the credit, but we knew that there was a much bigger need than just, making sure business stays open, once spring and summer roll around. I think this was something about just, seeing the greater need out there. And, once you set your ego aside and once you just kind of set up something and just go for it, with the idea of helping others in mind, I think only good could come out of it. And if it's genuine, then yeah, individually, I think we all know that, there's this need, that there's always going to be people that need help. And, even through art, through our individual things, the breweries, the individual pop-ups, I think that's something we all can always just work towards and always just have in the back of our minds. Even the soup events, that's, people love soup. That's an easy sell, and you can always attach something to it to like help out. Even if it's $10, that's $10 that organization didn't have before. We gotta look in terms of that. Like, it's not about donating 15 grand. It's about just doing what you can, and I think that's important. I think that should always be in the back of our minds as business owners and just decent human beings at this point, whether it was a pandemic or not.
Yeah.
I think it's like, and not even like donating money, like anything you're good at. Everyone's
Absolutely.
good at something. If you're an artist, if you have a car and you can drive and help in that way, if you're
Absolutely.
super organized, and like anything, any type of skill can be used.
So, obviously, as the pandemic happened and people were experiencing the changes in our businesses and our lives, we were pivoting, our businesses were shut down. Do you want to talk about how that affected you guys?
Yeah, I think it's a similar experience for everyone around the globe. in that every week was different. Every day was different. Every hour for a while there was different. And here in Chicago was no exception. The restaurant industry was no exception. Rules changed. What could happen changed. How much lettuce should I buy today? You know, am I going to be able to sell it? Am I going to be able to, you know, should I buy any chicken this week, or am I going to be able to pay staff? You know, that was the fundamental, like, can you continue doing business? And then adapting, you know, as everyone has, or some have.
Well, I know that you guys were pivoting and doing everything you could, just like we were. And I remember in the summer, I mean, we're actually at the anniversary of the death of George Floyd and the protests and the movement that arose shortly after. And I remember seeing you guys going to one of the protests in Chicago and feeding people. What brought you? What made you want to do that?
Well, it's a couple things. I mean, one, we had the food. We wanted to give it to people. We were struggling for some social application, I guess, for it, or to do something. You know, everybody wanted to do something. It's invaluable to get groceries and fresh produce and shelf-stable goods, but it's also really nice to get a meal that's cooked or ready to be cooked, heated, I should say. And it's really, really important. The pantry stuff has been stable for food insecurity, you know, and it's a great thing to do. I just think what our supplement is helps as well. It helps also with that time of just, you don't always have meal prep. You're running around to grab, the kids are going to this spot or working 2 different jobs, and a lot of people just said it was nice to have one meal that was just taken care of. They didn't have to worry about that one. You know?
That's one of the things we discovered is like these meals are somewhat uplifting in a way, right? Like it's a prepared, delicious meal that you normally wouldn't have been able to get, or they're not stopping by Donor Man and doing a pickup or whatever. And that's the thing that I love most about it, is that you guys were making amazing meals. You're making hundreds of them at a time, but you're used to that as a food truck. Was it difficult to do this, or was it just like, oh yeah, we got this?
We wanted to change a little bit after a while. At first it was hot meals when we were doing the food pickups and in the summer, and then as it moved to the fall, we realized almost everybody was taking it home and eating it later. So we changed the prep to be cold.
Reheatable.
Yeah, we handed it to them cold so that it's going to be safe to take home if they don't make it home right away. And then when they heat it, it's going to be at its best possible state. So you're going to cook differently. If you know somebody's going to heat something, you know, you're basically par cooking it. I mean, we've done, I don't know, 700 meals in a day out of the food truck before. Not very often, but so you can do 200 meals if you
want to.
Right.
Yeah.
So for us, we were lucky because we were able to adapt to that, and we're used to that high volume.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I love most about working with everyone and working with friends of friends is that everyone gets it. They figured it out. They're able to produce these meals as if it's a giant catering meal. But of course, whether it's hot or to be prepared later is always a decision made based on the constituents receiving it.
Michelle, what were you doing during this pandemic, during this craziness?
I mean, mostly working, but then before Community Kitchen, I was using, under Banana Phone, I was using like leftover produce donated by farms to like make ice or like sorbets and like sherbets, and then all the proceeds were, you know, going to charity and stuff like that too. So that's kind of like the model of like what we've been trying to do with Banana Phone.
That's awesome. And Rhea, what were you guys doing at Weiner Beer Co. or at Four Letter Word during this? I mean, most businesses shut down, the staff was cut, people were completely lost their gigs or were on unemployment or looking for side hustles, etc. Were there things that you were doing for your staff to try to keep them on board?
I mean, we couldn't operate at the same capacity we were. For Four Letter Word, we had to basically close down operations at the cafe, close down operations in the production side. No one was buying anything. so I had to let some people go, and same with Weiner, unfortunately. And production, there was no production. No bars were open, so no one was buying beer. Yeah, basically you just shut down. I mean, that's all we did. Shut down for maybe 3 months or so, and then just started doing beer deliveries, which really kind of helped keep us afloat. I mean, thank you for drinking beer. You know, I mean, it really kept us afloat, you know.
Like knowing how like unstable restaurants were, like in general, but then like on top of like the winter and everything, like having this extra income is just like, you know, made working with Community Kitchen like a sustainable thing.
And I mean, beyond helping us, the thing that I'm most proud about, like our time with this, is that we were able to have a rotating crew of like 4 or 5 people who haven't had jobs this whole time, or have been like underemployed this whole time, and they're able to come in and work with us, and we're able to pay them pretty well, and that's been amazing too.
Yeah, you're right. The actual pay, the point of this program was to make sure we paid workers well as one of the legs and components of it. So that obviously was helpful. That's great to hear. The other thing too was to provide a couple of funds for Weiner to use the kitchen and pay for utilities and stuff. Was that helpful as well?
Absolutely helpful. I mean, we still have rent to pay, you know, and our landlords have been nice enough to kind of put that on the back end sometime later. But we still had bills to pay, utilities.
Yeah, fixed costs continue.
Fixed costs continue,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So that was really helpful.
That's
yes,
good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's some of the things that people maybe who think about the food security industry don't know, is that oftentimes food is made in like community centers or community kitchens of sorts that are like canteen, like I guess cafeteria style places, and all those were shut down too. So pantries, kitchens were shut down. Senior citizens' homes, kitchens were just shut down everywhere, and people who relied on those meals couldn't get them anymore because the state wouldn't allow those places to be open. So it was really a complex and weird time, and I think it was really important for us to figure out a way to create the program so it supported the workers, supported the businesses, as well as supported the constituents, the guests who were eating the food.
And then beyond that, beyond quality, I think it's important to help the people who are around you. And, you know, we have this great farmland around us with people who really want to produce, really care about what they're producing. And to be able to support that is an amazing thing too.
Not when you rely on volunteer labor, sometimes people kind of burn out and they just don't show up, and it really affects the system and the process and operations of stuff. But people donating food like Schlegel Farms, Mikowski Meats, all the local vendors, just people donating. Whenever you ask, they would just provide for you, or they would call you and go, "I have this. Would you like it?" And that's what also just really excited me, was like, there is an extended community here who gets it, who wants to support this way of making meals in the industry itself, but also want to extend these quality, awesome produced meals to those in need. So that is super cool. Doesn't it just blow your mind when you come across folks who just want to do that? I mean, I love that part of this world.
It's amazing. It's just the kindness that comes out of somebody basically just being like, I have this extra whatever, can you use it, is really cool. And, it also hits on just kind of the weirdness of food waste, of, some farms can't sell an apple because it has a little spot on it. So what are they going to do with that? They're either going to throw it away, or
Perfectly good apple.
it's a perfectly good apple, but it has this little spot on it, so it doesn't look great in the farmer's market. So if they can give it to somebody who can use it, I'll gladly make something out of it and feed somebody with it.
Making the most out of like everything that we have and like thinking forward for like the next meal, the next week, any like, if we're any fat that's like coming from like the ground beef that we're
Yeah,
like
or
cooking.
pork, or- yeah.
Like we'll save that and like use it the next week or.
Been working in this industry for years, and it's been years of me separated from the people who eat the food. And I worked in many different types of kitchens, high-end kitchens in River North that make really bad food but charge a lot for it, and people love it. But all of those places, I'm hiding in the kitchen because I just don't have time or the energy or the honestly want to go like talk with the people who are eating this food. But now, because I'm making something that somebody is actually going to eat and enjoy, and it actually nourishes them and it revitalizes them and it helps them, and it's not something that they're paying, $40 to eat. It's something that they can just get and enjoy and eat. It makes me feel so much better about this job. I mean, in the beginning of the pandemic, and before it, honestly, I was feeling kind of left behind from this industry, and like the kind of toxic culture that is around it. Like, I've been talking for years about just the anger and like, the screaming at people and the name calling and the harassment and all that stuff that just happens, and then shutting down for so long and then not having any support really just makes it so that I just didn't want to be in this industry anymore. And then when Rio contacted me about this, I felt like revitalized myself.
Wow. That's beautiful to hear, man. I mean, the experiences with some of the chefs at Kimsky are similar in a sense that they're like, I really love feeding these people every day. I love that I could just bring food to people who couldn't afford it. They would never have bought it. They would never come here because they didn't feel comfortable going to the space, or they never knew they could go there, right? So a lot of ways what we're trying to present is kind of radical hospitality, And what you're experiencing, I think, is exactly the thing that we need to kind of change this industry.
I mean, I think we can use this pandemic as like a hard reset. Like, we have this ability to come back. We've had a year of like off and on basically nothing, and a lot of people have used that to realize like that they need more of a work-life balance. And like, I've known a lot of people who have been chef owners, like working forever, work like 16-hour days every day, and have kids at home, and then they're forced to stay home, and now they're like, oh, I can actually hang out with my kids now. I can like, they're kind of cool people. Like, I can hang out with my family. So like, we have this ability to have this hard reset that I think we need to take advantage of, and like you said, like build it up in our own image. Like, I think a lot of the problems with the industry comes from, well, I mean, obviously it's been generational, but like recently it's just this like cool image of being a chef.
Like everyone deserves like a good meal, and they deserve like love behind it. And so like, I mean, I don't really like being called a chef, because I don't know, it's just like we just make good food and we want to share it with people, and it's free, so like, fuck yeah.
I mean, I think in the simplest terms, it's like you cook to feed. I mean, isn't that what it is? And now the idea of cooking and has become, like you said, just something more than.
Like a spectacle.
Yeah, it's become a spectacle. It's
Yeah.
become a show.
Yeah.
And you can practice your art anyway, but practice your art feeding people. I don't know. I mean, that's the point of cooking.
Yeah, I mean, the sad reality is a lot of these organizations and groups rely on pure volunteer labor to supplement the couple of people paid to organize everything. And then that time, people's interest is a sine wave of interest, and they're there some days, there's other days, and just a lot of work goes into distributing and handing out meals to people. It's not easy, right? It takes several people to be involved in this, or someone who knows what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, the whole thing it's all very precarious. It's all just, it's really depressing, in fact, how precarious the entire state of food aid is in Chicagoland, probably everywhere in the goddamn country. So yeah, we did experience that at many locations. We had we had just basic things like we would bring meals 3 times a week to a senior citizen's home. 2 months in, we get calls that they weren't even getting their meals some days. They were sitting out for 2 or 3 days, or 2 or 3 hours. We're like, we're bringing you hot meals. What do you mean you're not getting for 2 or 3 hours? The staff, understaffed senior citizen home, didn't have the manpower to actually bring the food to people because everybody was mandated to stay in their apartment. They couldn't come down. They couldn't even, they couldn't leave their apartment in a senior citizens complex.
Right, a COVID definite problem, but
Yeah. So we're like, hey, management, why don't you tell us? We'll just send someone to deliver the meal door to door for you. And we did that, and we solved the solution.
Let you in.
Yeah, they let us do it. Okay. But there's lack of communication. You know, it's just crazy, man.
You have to be proactive on it. And that's why I say start small and make sure that you are able to be consistent, because you're going to run into a bunch of issues.
Oh yeah.
And you want to make sure you
staffing changes, personnel changes like we experienced in some of our spots, right?
You got to listen. You got to be on site. You got to see what's happening.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can't respond to those kind of issues. You know, when you're like, well, these meals need to go to people. Yeah. Like, help me figure it out. I'm not mad, but let's fix it. Now,
yeah.
You know.
Well, I think you have a really great idea and plan. I think your suggestion of like, start with once a month if you want, and ask your community to help and use those funds and recycle those funds, or ask for more funds, or do more pleas for help. It's a really easy way, low stress way of getting into it, as opposed to applying for grants and funds and, you know, asking for donations from corporations and stuff. I mean, we were very lucky that we got many corporations and businesses supported the program, obviously. Thousands of individuals contributed. To the point where, like, now I don't even know how many months it's been. How many months? Where are we? 5? 6? Over a year now we've been doing this. Mm-hmm. And we've probably fed over 130,000 people at this point. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of nuts. Can't even believe it happened. But that amount is nothing.
Right.
It's nothing.
Yeah. It is, to use your skill set. I say do that because that's our skill set. We can reach out to people. We can make meals. But you guys know how to fundraise. You're an organization that knows how to fundraise and do grants, and you know you can do it because you do it all the time. By all means, do that.
Yeah.
It's just for us, you know, it's easier to do what you know instead of reinvent your wheel and just apply it to this thing.
Yeah.